Jabari Small, Jaylen Wright on the Doak Walker preseason watch list. Here is why they could be the third and fourth best running option on the team, which I know sounds crazy. And Travis, I know that you posted earlier on the message board, and that was I watched the Orange Bowl last night. Wright and Small are underrated, if anything. Here's why I don't think they're either underrated or overrated. I think they're rated about what they should be. But I know Dylan Sampson had the best spring of any Vol on the roster. So Dylan Sampson's going to be a factor out of the backfield in some shape, form, or fashion. I know that Jaylen Wright has a special wiggle, in my opinion, but is he a special back? Not quite. Same thing for Jabari Small without the wiggle. Cam Seldon is a guy who had a fantastic spring and brings a lot more size and power to the position. So there's going to be an option there. I don't believe in freshmen at all, but if I believe in any freshman, it's a freshman running back. So please hit the like and subscribe button as we get into that and turn your notifications on. We'll have a Celebrate 98 edition coming up today. But Caleb, as far as Jabari Small and Jaylen Wright, I think they're very good as a package. I think most of the teams, probably all but one or two, would take them as their top two tailbacks. But I don't know that they're elite, and I don't know that they're Doak Walker status. And I do believe that Dylan Sampson's going to get a fair amount of touches, and Cam Seldon's going to get a fair amount of touches where there's not going to be any tailback on Tennessee's roster that stands out significantly more than others. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I agree with Jaylen Wright, not with Jabari Small. And now I'm going to start off disagreeing with you from the bat. I don't think Cam Seldon's getting a lot of touches this year. That was your spring back that got a lot of touches because they don't like to give their starting running backs a lot of reps in spring ball, because the fact of the matter is you don't really have to give your running back reps in practice that much. It ain't, there's not much learning to that position.
And I'm like 80% agreeing with you. I just keep hearing his name in the offseason, but I tend to agree with you on that point as well.
Yeah, so I think Jaylen Wright might become a little bit of the odd man out because of Dylan Sampson, but I'm not ruling out Jabari Small because Jabari Small is still the only player on this roster that I think can withstand 25 carries a game if needed, the 20 to 25 carry range. And so he's going to get a lot more chances at yards, scores, things like that. And he's a very effective running back in the passing game. Where I think the biggest drawback is going to be is the interior blocking. Cooper Mays and Javonte Spraggins are fine. We got no issues with them. Dave, left guard is still a big question right now. And it's not, I don't think you just replace Jerome Carvin. And I think it will be the interior blocking that determines if there's a Doak Walker on this roster. I mean, let's go back to Travis Stevens, the runner-up for the 2001 Doak Walker, the best running back season in Tennessee history. Travis Stevens had great vision, fast, great, had amazing agility and was great at cutting. It was the interior blocking that got him to 1360 that year in rushing more than anything else. That was Fred Weary paving the way for him. Fred Weary and I think Reggie Coleman were the two guards paving the way for him consistently. I don't know if Tennessee has that second guard yet opposite Spraggins.
I don't either, and I think they want it to be Addison Nichols in a way, and I think they want it to be Ollie Lane and a way for two different reasons. I think Nichols is more talented, Caleb, and you're kind of wondering why the switch hasn't been flipped yet. And then I think with Ollie Lane, it's a guy that's just worked it. And it's hard as a coach not to appreciate a guy like that. But is he as talented as the other interior offensive lineman on Tennessee's roster? I don't think so. And you're absolutely right. This offensive line, I still am amazed by the number of people who think that they're just going to be just fine without Darnell Wright, who negated basically one of your best pass rushers on your team. In Alabama's case, it was their best pass rusher. And the thing that was so incredible about Wright is he was so good at both aspects of both run blocking and pass blocking. So that continues to surprise me how people think that's just fine. They're going to be fine, which then would open up the scenario that maybe Dylan Sampson is a better fit. Because I think you would agree with me, Caleb, that if a guy's in space and has to make a play or has to speed away from somebody, then Sampson's going to be better than Jabari Small, than Jaylen Wright, or even Cam Seldon, right?
Yes, I agree. I think that there's nobody you would trust more in open space than Dylan Sampson. And so they're going to try to get him the ball a lot more. He is, dare we say, this year's Alvin Kamara? I mean, I don't want to go that high, but I think you could see something like that with him. And you're right, you're going to have to find ways to get him the ball in space. Also, where the run game could be most effective, the vertical run game, which Heupel cares about, I think you're going to see a lot more use of Milton this year than you saw with Hendon Hooker in the run game, which is going to be a lot more effective. You don't know if Milton's going to run it. You don't know if the running back's going to take the carry. And the reason I think that's a big deal is that, one, Milton's bigger than Hendon Hooker. So I think he can withstand a more vertical rushing attack as it is. But also, I'm ready for the message boards on this. I think Heupel is not as concerned about losing Milton and going to Nico as he was about losing Hendon Hooker last year and going to Milton.
Oh, okay. Now that's an interesting. Say that again.
Heupel will use Milton more in the run game than he used Hendon Hooker. One, because Milton's more durable because of his size, but two, he's less concerned about losing Milton and going to Nico than he was last year about losing Hooker and going to Milton.
That's interesting. And they're both his guys. Can I support your point for a second? They're both his guys. So like last year, do you, well, year one, 2021, and I had somebody within the program said the bottom line is Milton was their guy. And that was the bottom line. And it was close in practice, but they wanted to play their guy. So that last year, it's almost like you would be reverting, and that may be a psychological reason not to do it. This year, there should be no psychological reason, right?
Right. Both are his guys.
You're being called wild on the message board. What's going on with that? Yeah, I didn't think you haven't thrown any high. You ought to hear some of the things that Caleb and I say. That's nowhere close to high hot heat.
Joe Milton is Josh Heupel is Voldemort with 6 Horcruxes right now. Voldemort doesn't care if he uses one as a weapon and loses it. So I'm just saying, for all the Harry Potter heads listening on this.
I got totally lost. But you know, but running backs at the end of the day, let me ask you this question. Who has the most yards? Who has the most yards per carry? I think Jaylen has the most yards per carry. He was about a yard per carry over everybody else.
He was, but I think Sampson has the most yards per carry and yards this year, because I think even though Jabari Small is going to get more carries, but I think Sampson is going to have more explosive big plays. Jabari Small is going to be the guy that you use on the thing that people forget. What hurts Small a lot, to be fair to him, he's always brought in on 3rd and 1, 2nd and 2 plays. And it's a get the first down run as opposed to get a lot of yards run. You know what I'm talking about? So
yeah,
Small's going to have a lot more of those.
I'm interested. I think Sampson is about probably 7 yards a carry because he does interesting things. And then he gets about 500 or so yards, where I think the leading rusher will probably have around about 800 or 900. And then whoever it is, Jaylen Wright or Jabari Small, falls in after that.